Christmas is supposed to be a time of family, forgiveness, and warmth. A season when even strained relationships can soften under the glow of holiday lights. But for Evelyn, it became the day she realized that being a mother and grandmother didn't guarantee her a seat at the table she helped pay for. On Christmas morning, she stood on the porch of the house she co-signed for, cookies in one hand, a gift for her grandson Ethan in the other, wearing the same sweater he once said made her look like a snowflake. It was meant to be a small gesture of love, a reminder that no matter the tension, she was still family. Instead, she was met with cold rejection. Her daughter-in-law Amanda opened the door, no smile, no kindness, just a line that sounded rehearsed, "You're not welcome here." And in the background, Evelyn heard her grandson's voice asking, "Is that Grandma?" A sound Amanda immediately blocked by shifting her body in the doorway. Evelyn didn't beg. She didn't argue. She simply said 5 quiet words that cut sharper than any shout, "Good luck with the mortgage." Then she turned and walked away. But that moment was not the end. It was the beginning. Because Amanda hadn't just iced Evelyn out emotionally, she had crossed a legal line. In the papers Evelyn once signed to help her son Brian and Amanda keep their home, she discovered a forged signature. Amanda had committed fraud, rewriting Evelyn out of the very contract that kept a roof over their heads. And Evelyn, who had spent years being dismissed, belittled, and silenced, realized she had something powerful Amanda never expected: proof. What began as a Christmas rejection spiraled into a story of betrayal, legal battles, and a grandmother's determination not just to reclaim her rights, but to protect her grandson from a toxic cycle of manipulation and lies. This is not just a story about property or money. It's about family ties stretched to their breaking point, about the cost of misplaced trust, and about the strength it takes to stand up when the people closest to you try to erase you. And in the end, it's about finding peace in the quietest of victories, building not just a house, but a home no one can take away. Evelyn parked across the street, already uneasy. She hadn't been invited, but she told herself it didn't matter. She was a mother, a grandmother, showing up with cookies and a wrapped present for her grandson Ethan was the most natural thing in the world. The house looked festive on the outside. A fake pine wreath hung on the door, a sagging blow-up Santa leaned awkwardly on the lawn. From inside, she heard faint sounds of cartoons playing on the TV, footsteps, movement. For a brief second, she let herself hope. Maybe, just maybe, the holiday spirit would smooth over years of tension. She pressed the doorbell. Amanda opened the door in her robe, eyes glassy, her jaw set like she had been practicing this moment. No greeting. No smile. No Merry Christmas. Just a sharp line delivered like a rehearsed monologue. "You're not welcome here." Evelyn froze. In the split second of silence, she heard it, Ethan's small voice from inside the living room. "Is that Grandma?" Her heart leapt. But before she could catch even a glimpse of him, Amanda shifted deliberately, blocking the view with her body. Brian, her son, wasn't there to intervene. Amanda offered no explanation, only muttered, "Brian's not up. He had a rough night." Evelyn tried anyway, lifting the tin of cookies and the neatly wrapped box like peace offerings. "I just came to drop these off for Ethan." Amanda didn't even look. "Leave them on the step." She started to close the door. Evelyn's hand shot out, not aggressive, just firm enough to stop the door from shutting. Her voice was steady, low. "Amanda, I co-signed the loan on this house. Don't forget that." Amanda rolled her eyes, smirking. "Which you've reminded us of every Thanksgiving, Christmas, and backyard barbecue since. You think that buys you a free pass to bulldoze into our lives forever?" There it was. The real wound, bared sharp and ugly. Amanda saw Evelyn not as family, but as an intrusion, a debt she resented having to acknowledge. Evelyn let go of the door. No shouting. No pleading. Just 5 words, spoken softly but with the weight of stone. "Good luck with the mortgage." Then she turned and walked back to her car. She didn't even hear the door close behind her. Her hands shook as she set the gifts on the passenger seat, but not from sadness, not anymore. Amanda's coldness wasn't new. It had been creeping in for years, subtle and deliberate, like a slow boil. And Brian, once a man with a spine and a heart, had let it happen, piece by piece. Through the curtain, Evelyn thought she saw a shadow. Maybe Brian. Maybe Ethan. But it didn't matter. Amanda spoke for all of them now. She started the car, turned up the heater, and drove away. But as she pulled onto the road, her mind wasn't on Christmas anymore. It was on paperwork. Specifically, the mortgage package she had signed years ago, tucked away in a drawer in her apartment. She remembered the clause about co-owner rights. A small smile tugged at her lips. She hadn't burned bridges, she had built exits. At home, the silence was unbearable. The apartment still smelled of pot roast she had cooked the day before, holding on to hope for a last-minute invitation that never came. She set the untouched cookies on the counter, unwrapped Ethan's gift, a NASA building kit she knew he would have adored, and placed it gently beside her plate. She poured half a glass of boxed Merlot and sat in the kitchen doorway, chewing slowly, tasting nothing. The room was thick with silence. Even the muted Christmas special playing on TV couldn't fill it. Her eyes landed on the bookshelf. A photo of Ethan, frosting on his face, wearing reindeer pajamas, hugging her legs like she was his whole world. That was just last year. Now she was erased. She picked up her phone, dialed his old contact, and left a message. Her voice cracked as she whispered into the void. "Hi, sweetheart. It's Grandma. I just wanted to say I love you. Merry Christmas. I miss you." She hung up quickly, before her voice gave her away. Then she walked to her office and opened the drawer filled with manila folders. Mortgage documents. Agreements. Receipts. She flipped until one page stopped her cold. Her name. Her signature. Except it wasn't. A refinance addendum, supposedly signed by her, dated just after her birthday last year. But she had never seen it. Never touched a pen that day. The loops were wrong. The slant was wrong. Her stomach tightened. It was forged. Amanda hadn't just tried to erase her from Christmas. She had tried to erase her from the house itself. Evelyn's jaw set. She took a photo of the document and sent a late-night text to Joan, her longtime friend who had notarized every real document she'd ever signed. "Can I come by tomorrow? Mortgage stuff. Need your eyes." Joan replied immediately, "Of course." Evelyn stared at the forged page. Amanda had wanted her gone for good. But Amanda had made one mistake. She'd left a paper trail. The next morning, Evelyn drove with the folder clutched so tightly her knuckles ached. She barely noticed the frost on the windshield or the barren streets. Her whole mind was locked on one thing, the forged refinance page. Joan answered the door in slippers and a coffee-stained sweatshirt, raising her eyebrows before Evelyn even spoke. "You look like hell," she said bluntly. Evelyn didn't argue. She stepped inside and spread the paperwork across the kitchen table like a puzzle she already knew the answer to but needed confirmed. "Here," Evelyn said, tapping the refinance page. "That's not mine." Joan pulled on her glasses, leaned in, and studied the signature. Then, without a word, she went to her drawer and pulled out a folder of old documents, one she herself had notarized for Evelyn years earlier. She laid them side by side. The comparison was damning. "The angle's off," Joan murmured. No pressure in the pen strokes. "And look here, the date? A Sunday. No bank processes mortgage documents on a Sunday. Evelyn, this isn't just sloppy. It's a forgery. And forgery on a mortgage? That's criminal." Evelyn's stomach dropped, even though she already knew it in her bones. Hearing it confirmed, in Joan's calm, certain voice, turned a gut feeling into reality. Joan photocopied everything, slid the originals back across the table, and spoke more softly now. You need a lawyer. Before they dig this hole deeper and drag you down with them. Evelyn nodded numbly. She drove home in silence, the folder sitting like dynamite on the passenger seat. At home, she didn't even take off her coat. She pulled up her laptop, searched for local legal aid services, and dialed 3 numbers before one finally agreed to see her the next day. That night, she spread every scrap of related paperwork across her small dining table. Receipts. Payment notices. Texts. Emails. It was like piecing together a trail of breadcrumbs. Amanda had been careful, but not perfect. There were texts from Brian saying, "Amanda says you don't need to come to the bank." There were notes Amanda had written, dismissing Evelyn with lines like, "Brian will handle the papers this time." Each piece, small on its own, began to form a bigger picture, a fraud wrapped in manipulation. When Evelyn finally crawled onto the couch in her sweats, laptop still glowing beside her, she didn't feel fear anymore. She felt focus. She even made a list on a yellow notepad titled, "Things I Regret." Number 1, trusting Amanda with anything more valuable than a casserole. The next afternoon, Evelyn walked into the legal aid office. Her attorney, Elena, was younger than she expected, sharp-eyed, and brisk. Evelyn laid the folder on the desk, explained the situation, slid over the forged refinance document along with Joan's comparison notes. Elena flipped through without hesitation. "This is textbook mortgage fraud. Since you're co-owner, any refinance without your signature is invalid. Depending on how they use the money, it could escalate to theft." Evelyn gripped the armrest of her chair, her heart pounding harder than she wanted to admit. "What are my options?" Elena didn't sugarcoat it. "You can press charges, freeze any future transactions, or file a civil motion to force the sale of the home. That would trigger a financial audit of all mortgage activity since the fraud. You'd likely recover your share." Evelyn swallowed hard. "But it will get ugly." Elena met her gaze. "It already is." Evelyn left the office with her decision already made. She didn't need time to think. As soon as she reached her car, she dialed Brian. He answered groggily on the 4th ring. "Hey, Mom." Evelyn didn't waste words. Her voice was low, steady. "We need to talk. Now." 5 minutes later, Brian slid into the passenger seat of her car, rumpled in sweatpants and an old hoodie. For a long moment, they just sat there. "Did you know about the refinance?" Evelyn asked. Brian's eyes darted away. Silence stretched. "Brian," she pressed. He exhaled sharply. "Amanda said we'd lose the house if we didn't. She said you'd never agree. I didn't see the papers until after." "You let her forge my name," Evelyn said quietly. He shook his head weakly. "I thought maybe it wouldn't matter." "It matters," she said, voice like steel. "You let her erase me from my own agreement. I co-signed because I trusted you." Brian's voice cracked. "I'm sorry." But Evelyn wasn't here for apologies. She leaned closer, her tone low and certain. "You need to fix this before I do. I've already met with a lawyer. Amanda's lies won't stop here, and if you keep covering for her, you'll drown with her." Brian nodded slowly, eyes cast down. "I'll talk to her." "No," Evelyn cut him off. "You'll listen. When she panics, and she will, you don't cover for her again. Not this time." Brian got out without another word, his shoulders hunched like a scolded child. Evelyn watched him walk back to the house, but her resolve didn't waver. She had been dismissed too many times. Not anymore. That night, Amanda texted, "You don't want to start a war you can't finish." Evelyn didn't reply. She simply hit record on a new voice memo and read the text out loud. "Evidence. When an unmarked envelope slid under her door the next morning, inside, a grainy photocopy of her driver's license and a note that read, "Careful what you dig up," she didn't flinch. She stapled it to the forged mortgage page and scrawled one word across the top in red marker. Evidence. Amanda had declared war. But Evelyn had something Amanda didn't. Patience. Documentation. And nothing left to lose. 3 days passed without a word from Brian. No texts, no calls, no knock at the door. Evelyn told herself she didn't mind, but the silence at night stretched too long. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering what Amanda was whispering into Ethan's ears. Wondering what story he was being told about his grandmother. On the fourth morning, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Hi, Miss Collins, it's Lisa from Ethan's daycare. I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I thought you'd want to know. I found something in Ethan's cubby." Evelyn's chest tightened. "What kind of something?" "Better if I just show you," Lisa said quietly. 20 minutes later, Evelyn was parked in front of the daycare. Lisa slipped out the side door, glancing nervously around, and handed Evelyn a folded piece of paper like it was contraband. "He drew it last week." Didn't say much, but it felt pointed. Evelyn thanked her, then sat in the car staring at the paper for a long time before finally opening it. It was a child's crayon drawing. A house, crooked but recognizable. 3 stick figures outside, one tall, one medium, one small. And off to the side, behind a window, was a 4th figure. Sad face, heavy blue scribbles. Underneath, in blocky kindergarten letters. "Grandma is outside." Evelyn's throat closed. She ran her fingers over the lines, her eyes burning. Not from rage this time, but from grief. Ethan was already learning what it felt like to be cut off. To be isolated by the very people who should have taught him unconditional love. She made a copy as soon as she got home, scanned it into her phone, and sent the image to Brian without a single word. 10 minutes later, her phone rang. "I saw it," Brian said quietly. "What did he say when he drew it?" Evelyn asked. "He just told Lisa he missed you." Evelyn's voice sharpened. "And what did Amanda say?" Silence. "Brian." He sighed heavily. "She told him you're too busy now. That you don't want to see him." Evelyn's jaw clenched so hard it ached. "That's a lie. And you know it. And your son is going to grow up knowing you let her say it." "I'm sorry," Brian whispered again, the same hollow word she'd heard too many times. "You keep saying that," she snapped. "But you're still letting her control everything. Your son is drawing pictures of isolation and you're, what? Watching it happen?" For the first time, she heard something in his silence. Not defiance. Not dismissal. But regret. Her voice softened, but only slightly. "Brian, I don't need you to fix Amanda. But I need you to choose. For your son's sake, do you want him growing up thinking love disappears when it's inconvenient?" There was a long pause, then Brian said, almost too quietly to hear, "I'll come by. Alone. Tomorrow." Evelyn hung up without saying goodbye. She taped Ethan's drawing to her fridge like a mission statement. Not just a child's picture, but evidence. Reminder. Warning. Amanda might have locked her out of their house, but she would not be locked out of her grandson's heart. The next day, Brian arrived just after 1, carrying a grocery bag with store-brand muffins like it could patch 5 years of silence. Evelyn let him in without a word, gestured to the couch, and placed the folder of documents on the table between them. He glanced at it but didn't touch. "I talked to Amanda," he started. Evelyn cut him off. "We're past Amanda. You can listen, or you can leave. But I'm not wasting another breath on a woman who forged my name and told my grandson I was too busy for him." Brian nodded, staring at the floor. For a second, she glimpsed the boy she had raised, the one who used to look at her with trust, not avoidance. "I went to a lawyer," she said firmly. She confirmed Amanda committed fraud. "That makes every refinance since then invalid. And I have the right to force the sale of the house." Brian flinched, but Evelyn pressed on. "You and Amanda took out equity after that refinance." "Thousands." "Where did it go?" "She said it was for kitchen remodeling," he muttered. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "The kitchen hasn't been touched, Brian." She lied. Again. "And this time, I'm not covering the cost." She opened the folder, placed the forged refinance page beside the notarized original from years earlier. "Look. The signature. The date. Sunday, no bank does business on a Sunday." She didn't just lie, Brian. She committed a felony. Brian rubbed his face, his voice low. "I should have stopped her." "Yes," Evelyn said flatly. "You should have." He swallowed. "So what happens now?" "I'm filing a motion next week. It'll trigger a financial review. If the judge agrees, and she will, the house goes up for sale. You'll get your share. I'll get mine. Amanda? She'll have to figure out what's left." Brian stared, stunned. "What about Ethan?" Evelyn's voice softened just slightly. "I'm not kicking him out. I'm kicking her out. You want to stay involved in your son's life? Find a way that doesn't involve letting his mother poison him with lies." She handed him Ethan's drawing. "He's watching you, Brian. He sees everything." Brian's jaw tightened, his eyes wet but unshed. He nodded slowly. "I'll get him a phone." Something she can't control. Evelyn finally leaned back. "Good. Because I'm not going anywhere. But I'm not playing nice anymore either." That night, she called Elena and told her she was ready. The motion was filed the next afternoon. The stamped pages felt heavy in Evelyn's hands, but not in a burdensome way. Heavy like a sword. Amanda had tried to erase her with lies. Evelyn would fight back with facts. And the next time Ethan drew a picture, Evelyn promised herself she wouldn't be outside the window. She'd be sitting right there beside him. It only took 3 days for the court notice to hit their mailbox. On the 4th night, Amanda showed up at Evelyn's apartment, pounding on the door like she meant to break it down. Evelyn could already hear her voice from the hallway, slurred, ragged, fueled by cheap wine. "You ruined everything. You think you can do this to me?" When Evelyn finally opened the door, Amanda stood there disheveled, hair wild, hoodie half-zipped, pajama pants stained, eyes red from crying, or maybe from screaming. "You have no idea what you've started," she shrieked, stepping forward. Evelyn raised her phone, thumb hovering over the screen. "One word, Amanda, and I'll call the cops. You know I'll follow through." Amanda froze, not because she believed Evelyn would, but because for the first time, she realized Evelyn wasn't bluffing. Her voice dropped, shaking with fury. "Brian's a mess. Ethan's confused. And you? You're acting like some damn martyr. But all you ever wanted was control." Evelyn didn't flinch. "No. What I wanted was respect. I gave you my name on that mortgage because my son needed help. I never asked for anything except a seat at the table. And you spent years trying to push me out of the house I helped you keep." Amanda's face twisted. "We were fine until you meddled." "You forged my signature," Evelyn said, her voice calm but sharp as steel. "That's not a boundary. That's a felony." Amanda scoffed, but Evelyn saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. "You're bluffing. No judge will tear a child out of his home just because your name's on some old piece of paper. You're not as protected as you think," Evelyn cut in. "The judge already signed a financial review. So you'd better start preparing your lies, because soon you'll be under oath. Amanda's mouth opened, then shut. For once, words failed her. Evelyn stepped closer, her voice low and deliberate. You picked the wrong woman, Amanda. I spent 30 years paying bills, raising a son, running a household. And you think I can't handle one entitled fraud with a wine habit? Amanda staggered back a step, voice cracking. You'll regret this. Maybe, Evelyn said, then closed the door in her face. Slowly. Deliberately. She locked it with steady hands and leaned against it for just a second. Her heart pounded, but she wasn't afraid. She was steady. Anchored. She immediately texted Elena, her lawyer. Amanda showed up. I have a partial recording. The reply came within minutes. Good. That's harassment. Save it. This helps us. Evelyn stapled the recording to her growing folder of evidence and set it on the table under Ethan's crayon drawing. She ran her fingers over the blue scribbles of Grandma outside and whispered to herself, not anymore. That night, just after midnight, Evelyn's phone buzzed with a voicemail. Brian's voice, low, shaky, recorded from what sounded like a parked car. I left. I couldn't do it anymore. She threw a mug at the wall and told me to pick a side. I picked Ethan. I'm at a motel off Route 3. I don't know what to do next. Evelyn replayed it twice before calling him back. He answered on the first ring, his voice raw. Is Ethan with you? She asked. No, Brian admitted. She wouldn't let me take him. Not without a fight. That's what broke me. She's using him as a pawn now. An hour later, Brian showed up at her apartment, hollow-eyed, dark circles underlining years of denial. He carried a plastic grocery bag of clothes in one hand and a manila envelope in the other. He didn't even sit when she offered. I need to tell you something, he said, standing in the middle of her living room like a boy in trouble. Something I should have said a long time ago. Evelyn stayed quiet. He took a breath. I knew. About the forgery. Not after, the night before. Amanda said she found a workaround, and when I pushed back, she threatened to take Ethan and disappear to Utah. I froze. I thought losing her meant losing my son. So I let it happen. His voice cracked. I didn't sign it. But I didn't stop it either. Evelyn's chest tightened, but she didn't speak. Brian held out the manila envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a detailed statement. Every step of Amanda's scheme. Where the equity money went. Receipts of her purchases. A secret credit card. PayPal transfers to her sister. He documented it all. You're testifying? Evelyn asked. Brian nodded. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. Even if it costs me custody. His voice trembled, but he pushed on. If I lose Ethan because I'm finally telling the truth, then maybe I deserve that. But I hope the court sees the difference between a mistake and a pattern. For the first time in years, Evelyn didn't see a spineless boy. She saw a man finally standing. She brewed coffee while Brian sat silently at the table, staring at his hands. For a brief moment, it didn't feel like mother and son, it felt like two adults, bruised but determined, piecing together the mess Amanda had built. Before you left for the motel again, Evelyn promised, this time, you're not doing it alone. That night, she mailed Ethan a children's book about astronauts. Inside the cover, she wrote, "No matter how far you go, I'll always be watching the sky with you. Love, Grandma." She tucked in a small prepaid phone, simple, with only her number programmed. A quiet rebellion. A lifeline Amanda couldn't cut. When Evelyn finally fell asleep, it wasn't out of exhaustion. It was out of certainty. Amanda's secrets had been dragged into the light, and no matter how much Amanda screamed, the truth was already burning the house of cards down. 2 weeks later, the house hit the market. The listing described it as cozy, charming, motivated sellers, but behind those cheerful real estate words was a battlefield of forged signatures, legal motions, and fractured loyalties. Amanda didn't even show up to the hearing. Her lawyer claimed stress, emotional duress, relocation to her sisters in Utah. The judge didn't blink. Elena presented the forged document, Brian's sworn statement, and the audit proving over $34,000 of equity rerouted into Amanda's personal accounts. The ruling came quickly, the refinance was invalid, the house forced into sale. Outside the courthouse, Evelyn and Brian stood side by side, not celebrating, just breathing. "You okay?" she asked softly. Brian shook his head. "No. But I will be." The house sold faster than Evelyn expected. The market was hungry for anything under $200,000. After deductions and penalties, Brian walked away with 20%. Evelyn received 50%, reflecting her original cosign equity. For the first time in years, she had money not tied to someone else's need, excuse, or apology. She bought a small fixer-upper near an elementary school. Single-story, pale green siding, yard scattered with dead leaves. To anyone else, it looked tired. But to Evelyn, it looked like possibility. Brian showed up that first Saturday with Ethan in tow and a paint roller in his hand. They didn't talk about Amanda. They didn't talk about what came next. They just worked. Evelyn made sandwiches, Brian fixed a broken hinge, and Ethan insisted the mailbox be painted blue because mail feels sad and needs cheering up. That night, Ethan camped in a makeshift tent of bedsheets in the guest room. On Sunday morning, he handed Evelyn a new drawing, 3 figures, Evelyn and Ethan on a swing set, Brian behind them holding a hammer. "It's our new house," he said proudly. Evelyn taped it on the fridge, right beside the first one that had broken her heart. "Looks perfect," she whispered. And for the first time, it felt true. Weeks later, as the sale officially closed, Evelyn sat on her porch with a glass of iced tea, watching Ethan chase a ball across the patchy grass. She wasn't bitter anymore. Amanda was gone, maybe for good, maybe not. It didn't matter. Evelyn had stopped trying to fix what others broke just to preserve a false peace. What she had now was real. A house. A grandson who laughed again. A son learning that love wasn't about silence, it was about showing up. 1 year later, almost to the day, Evelyn set a table for 3. Nothing fancy, just simple plates and roasted chicken filling the air with warmth. She heard the knock on the door, followed by sneakers scuffing against the step and a breathless voice, "Grandma, we brought the cranberry sauce." She opened the door to see Ethan holding a plastic container smeared red across the lid, Brian behind him carrying a tiny fake Christmas tree they'd picked up at a gas station. "Every Christmas needs a tree, even if it's small," Ethan said. Evelyn laughed, ushered them in, and felt the house glow, not from lights, but from presence. After dinner, Ethan handed her another drawing. A little greenhouse with 3 smiling stick figures and the words, "Our real Christmas." Evelyn hugged him tight, kissed the top of his head, and whispered, "You make every place feel like home, kiddo." Later, when Ethan had fallen asleep on the carpet watching cartoons, Evelyn sat on the porch with Brian. The small plastic tree blinked softly in the window. "Amanda sent me a voicemail," Brian admitted. "She wants to talk." Evelyn didn't press. "You going to?" He hesitated. "Part of me wants to yell. The other part just wants to move on." She nodded slowly. "Do what keeps Ethan safe and you sane. That's all that matters now." He looked at her, eyes tired but steadier than before. "Thank you, Mom. For not giving up on me." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Just keep showing up. That's all I ever wanted." It wasn't a dramatic ending. No gavel pounding in triumph, no grand reconciliation. Just quiet resolution, the kind that sinks into your bones and tells you, you survived. You rebuilt. And this time, it's better. This Christmas didn't come with lights or crowds or perfection. It came with truth, effort, and the people who stayed. Evelyn had once walked away from a house she helped pay for, but in return, she gained a home no one could take. When she tucked Ethan into bed that night, kissed his forehead, and pulled the blanket over his shoulders, she realized something profound. This wasn't just a better ending. It was a beginning. What would you do if you were in Evelyn's situation? Have you or someone you know ever experienced something similar, being pushed aside, manipulated, or betrayed by family? Share your story below. It may give strength to someone else walking through the same storm. And tell us, what story should we explore next? Because sometimes, the most powerful lessons come from the battles no one sees, until someone is brave enough to speak.